Hello, my name is Debbie Cola and I am your instructor in your PE 195 Functional Fitness Life Fitness Center class. In this video, I'm going to be showing you modifications and ways that you can perform our exercises that are required in the class using very simple equipment that you either have at home, and of course many of the exercises do not require equipment at all, so I'll be showing and reminding you ways to perform the exercises. Our first exercise is Group A, Legs 1, and it is called squat. So many of us know how to squat, but I'm going to be reviewing our basic squat technique, and then also offering up a variation. This is a small piece of equipment that is easily purchased at a grocery store. This is actually a child's play ball, and I've taken some air out to get to about 9 inches or so. It's with a little bit of pliability. So I'll show you how to modify that. So our basic squat, I'm going to turn sideways so you can see my form here. I'm going to place the ball, and again, obviously you can use nothing. You're going to place it at the inner thigh position. I'm going to have you have your feet parallel to each other. For now, I'm going to have you have your arms at your side, and you can see there's a chair that's just behind me because that's going to give me a little reference point. All right, nice neutral spine. I'm going to have you hinge from the hip. Knee stays right over the ankle. All right, imagine I'm just going to sit into that chair. As I exhale, I'm going to drive the heels into the floor, squeezing the ball if you have one, and then inhale as you lower. And if you'd like to, you can take this a little farther to tap down. Here's the important point. You do not want to allow the knees to jettison over the toes. You can feel your weight transfer. So reposition. Roughly, the knee should be in line with the ankle, maybe slightly more forward. So that's you'll feel the difference. Most of your body weight is in your heels. So you're going to come up and down. You're stabilizing to the spine and pelvis while the legs move. So there's no rocking or rolling, hip shifting through this position here. All right, I'm going to show you another way to accomplish this, which is kind of fun. You're going to actually sit down in a chair, just any regular chair or stool, and you can again use the ball, and you're going to have your heels underneath the knee. Sit up nice and tall, and then I'm going to have you slightly hinge forward. Drive your heels into the ground, eyes looking forward, and you're going to lift up to stand. Make sure the legs don't hyperextend, and certainly we don't want to arch the back. All right, inhale, lower, sit down. You can come vertical if you like, or stay in that hinge position. And I'll just do a few reps here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm sitting down and standing up. Lower down nice and slow, under control. We don't want to flop our hips to the chair, and then come up. So either way you would like to demonstrate this exercise is up to you. Down and up. Again, making sure the toes aren't forward and no arching in the back. So this is a hip hinge. Shoulders are down, head's neutral, upper body's nice and relaxed. Okay, again, that's the Group A Legs 1 squat that you can do at home. Our next exercise group is Group A Legs 2, and it's the split squat, also known as a lunge. So I'm going to show you how to do that, give you some few tips, as well as how we can possibly modify this for a bigger challenge if you'd like, okay? Okay, so you're going to turn, well, I'm going to turn so you can see my form, and I'm going to get into a lunge position. I'm going to bend both knees. I'm going to hinge down from the hip. Try not to go too vertical here. It's a subtle hip hinge. And you're going to lower the hip and then lift. Now, for those of you who have been trained maybe more to be more vertical, here's the problem with that, especially if your leg is too far back. You're going to feel a lot of stretching in the hip flexor, and it's going to limit your range of motion, so be aware of that. You are going to bend both knees, keeping most of your body weight in your front leg, maybe about 80-20, 70-30, but most of your body weight is in that front leg. Again, when we move our legs, our pelvis and spine is not moving. So stable in the pelvis, neutral spine, and just notice what you feel. You should feel your gluteals, the quadriceps, and the hamstrings as you push up and resist. Okay, for those of you who would like a little harder variation, this is also on your list. I believe they have you lunge forward. Here's the problem with lunging forward. Most people don't do this right, where they take a small step forward and the knee transfers over the toes. You can see my heel lift. So if you'd like to, you're welcome to do a backward lunge. You're just doing that, okay? So staying on that same side, you can certainly alternate this. This requires more balance, as you can see. Here's an alternating variation. Exhale as you come. Always exhale on that exertion phase. Good. All right. Our next exercise group is Group A, legs 3, one leg balance. Pretty simple. All right, so choose a leg that you're going to stand and balance on. Make sure your weight is not shifted to the side. So square off the hips. Make a little kickstand here. See with the toe? Okay, eyes looking forward. Try to fix your eyes on a immobile object. And you can either do this, for those who struggle with balance, okay, or you can lift up the leg. As a challenge position, you can close your eyes. Maybe you can time yourself, see how long you can do this for. Okay, obviously it's kind of nice to balance on both sides, so make sure you practice on both sides. Okay, so that is the Group A, legs 3, one leg balance. Okay, Group B, legs, hamstrings, hip extension. Very challenging to do without the ball, okay? If you have one, excellent, practice with it. It's a great home piece of equipment. If you do not, use a chair, okay? So I'm going to show you how to modify this. Lie down on your back. And you're going to place your legs on top of a chair. Okay? You want to have your legs nice and straight. That's important for hip extension. You're going to start in a neutral position. Roll your shoulders down and back, neck long. Maintain a neutral spine. Inhale. As you exhale, you're going to drive your legs into the chair and lift up the hips into extension. You're going to lower the hips, hinge, tap the floor, and lift up. Notice how straight my legs are. Neck is long. You can see my pelvis is not wobbling around or arching. Sometimes people come up too high and you feel this in your low back. So just reposition there at the top, tilt the tailbone slightly more towards your heels. You'll feel that, and that's called the posterior pelvic tilt. Just a little one there, just to reposition in neutral. And you shouldn't feel that in your low back anymore. Obviously, if anybody would like to, you want to make this a little bit of a challenge because, you know, it's a little harder without the ball. You can alternate either a single leg tabletop position or a straight leg position. That's really going to challenge it. You can hold one and do little lifts from there. Okay, so that's going to be quite challenging. Take a big breath in if you're up here with me, and then slowly melt it on down. That one deserves a stretch, so let's go ahead and tuck in. And that was your hip extension, groups B. Okay? All right. Let's move on. Group C, upper body, chest push-up. We can do push-ups at home. Very simple. I'm going to just go over basics today and show you some modifications that you can do. Okay, let's make sure that we're in position. So walk your hands slightly in front of the shoulders. You might, start in that tabletop or quadruped position here. Walk your hands forward or knees back. You're going to tuck the tail towards your nose and then transfer your weight. So right now I'm on my knees. Okay, you can see from my knee, hip, shoulder, and ear is all in one line. I don't want to let the head drop. Okay, The hands should be just on the outsides of the shoulders slightly, and the elbows aren't going to point directly back, but not directly side, more at about a 45-degree angle. You're going to lower down to about 90 degree, maybe a little lower, and exhale up. Inhale, lower, exhale up. So that's just a classic push-up, partial on the knee. For those who'd like to, you can go toes. Nothing should change. Make sure you do not allow the back to sag so belly is lifted. Gluteals are tight. This is a great core exercise. Inhale, lower, as well as upper body, of course. Chest, shoulders, and triceps working hard. Also your core stabilizers, so you can choose. For those who are a little more adventurous, you can lift up a leg, okay? I'm not going to do that, but you can see how that would make it a lot more challenging. So feel free to do those exercises or modifications at home since we don't have a ball, okay? All right, moving on from the chest, group C, we're going to do group D, upper body, scapula stabilizers. And this one kind of goes nicely with the push-up. So if you would like to, get yourself into that partial plank position. So walk your knees back, maybe a little, or hands forward. Lower the hips. Keep your arms straight. You're going to allow the scapula to draw in toward each other. This is retraction of the scapula. And then push it away. Open them up. That's protraction. Inhale, lower. Exhale, up. Feel the scapula move toward each other as you lower your chest toward the mat. Now, obviously, an easy way to make this harder is to do a full plank. Let's say you want to make it easier. Then you're going to go down to your elbows and go to a partial plank or full plank. Okay, this is requires a little less upper body. Watch your scapula. Make sure you start in that neutral position so they're open, and then lock them down toward your imaginary hip pockets if you have some. Belly's lifted. All right, allow the scapula to reach toward each other and exhale away from each other. Lower the chest toward the mat and then elevate it. Watch your neck position. Again, lifting your knees off the mat is going to add more challenge. Now there's another way to do those as well. If you'd like to, you can sit however you like, chair, floor. Some of you might own a band. I like to double up here, and you're just going to retract the scapula. You can see I'll turn sideways. You can see the movement, really isolating the scapula. Don't have a band, not necessary. You can use a belt or a strap, and that makes a nice little easy home modification. Okay, moving on to our next exercise, Group E, unit abdominals 1, basic crunch. Cheating with my notes here. Okay, basic crunch. We obviously don't have a stability ball. If you take me up on my advice, this is one of the best, less than $2 pieces of equipment that you can buy, as stated earlier in our video here today. So let me show you, for those who've never used one of these before, how you can modify this wonderful exercise, just a classic crunch. So place that ball just below the scapula, okay? You gotta be careful. If you allow it to go too low, you could go into full extension here. It could hurt your back. So let's start conservative at the beginning here. Fingertips cradling the head. Okay, get yourself in position. Stabilize the pelvis. Lengthen over the ball. You're extending your spine. Don't go too far. We don't need to go all the way to the floor. So you're going just beyond neutral and up to your flexed crunch position. Belly goes in, rib cage knits, eyes to thighs. Again, watching that chin position. And the reason why I emphasize this so much is I do not want you to pull on the head, okay? Flap your wings. We don't need to do that either. So keeping your elbows in your peripheral vision the entire time. And by the way, this is challenging. So the ball is just a really fantastic way to modify this. Okay, you don't have one, that's okay. You obviously can do curl ups or crunches on your mat or floor. Same position, you're just starting from a very supreme neutral position here. Can't go into extension because the floor is in the way. So watch your chin, you're gonna tuck your chin gently, slide the back of your head toward the top of your mat, and then peel up. Make sure, again, you're not moving a lot through the pelvis. What you want to do is peel up the head, neck, and shoulders. The pelvis slightly presses into the mat, just a little bit, but it doesn't jam or hard tuck into the mat. So we don't want to emphasize a pelvic tuck or a posterior pelvic tilt while we go into our curl up, because we want to emphasize the abdominals. We do not want to emphasize the glute. Okay, you'll feel your hamstrings here as well if you do that. So try not to do that. Notice where you feel this. For those who'd like a little fun variation, come up, add rotation. It's rib toward the opposite hip. So think right rib toward left hip, and come back to center, peel down. And you can stay on the same side. Notice I'm not pulling with the elbows, not yanking on the head. Or you can alternate sides. Let's do a few just to kind of get in the groove. You can, again, alternate or stay on that same side. Here's some other fun variations if you'd like to. Hold it on one side and pulse so you can reach. Good. All kinds of different variations. Take a big stretch, tuck your knees in if you're with me doing the exercise. Again, this is more for demonstration purposes than actual workout. Okay, okay, let's move on. That was Group E, Unit 1, Basic Crunch. Now we're going to move on to Group E, Outer Abs, Unit 2, Reverse Crunch, or I like to call it Reverse Curl. So I'll show the ball because, again, it is my favorite. So you're going to lie on your back. And what are we going to do with the ball here? I'm going to have you hold it at the inner thigh. You can also, as it states in your sheet, you know, in the video, we have that large stability ball with our legs wrapped around. This works really well too. I like a little foot flex. It's not very much weight, so I'm not sure this adds that much. So I'm going to prefer to put it at my inner thigh. Why the inner thigh? Because when you put this ball or something, it could be a pillow as well, between your inner thighs, you give it a squeeze that activates the inner thigh, helps you find the pelvic floor, and helps you activate the transverse abdominis. Okay, so that's very important in ab training. You can flex, you can point. I like a little bit of a flex. Head, neck, and neutral. Inhale. As you exhale, you're going to tilt the tailbone up toward the ceiling, hip toward the rib, and then return. Notice I'm not really swinging. Lift up and down. You might feel your upper body as a stabilizer, so some tricep work. You just want to make sure you're not shrugging, or this is the biggest no-no. Shrug and then press your head into the mat and lift up your chin. I see this a lot. Okay. Also, here's another no-no, and that's just swinging the legs. Not really much going on there, but a lot of momentum and hip flexor activation. So if you really want to train your abs, this is what you got to do. All right, it's hip toward the rib, belly to the back of the spine, a little pause at the top, and that's going to help you from swinging. Certainly we can add here a little bit, add a little rotation by keeping your knees in one over the hips and then allowing your knees to slightly turn to one side. If your knees are to the left, you're going to focus on that right oblique. So this is just a fun variation that you can do. Again, no ball. You don't need a ball here. Just legs glued together. Again, a pillow works really nicely as well. If you're doing our little variations, make sure you do both sides. You can stay on that same side, or it's kind of fun to alternate. So what you want to do is come up, hold it up, turn, and lower to the other side. You can really kind of hear I'm working quite hard. Notice my upper body not internally rotating the shoulders, and I don't want to put any pressure in the back of the neck. Okay, so that's some fun variations that you can perform at home for that reverse curl or reverse crunch. All right, group E, outer unit, abs 3, lateral plank, easy peasy. What I'd like to do is to show you not only the exercise, but modifications for this exercise, okay? Okay, lots of modifications for side plank. So let's start with the easiest variation. Knees stacked, and if you had a line, just draw a line along your mat, and you want to line up your elbow and your stacked knees. You're going to swing your heels behind you, so you're going to be on your knees. Okay, so this is just a shorter lever. Again, elbow under the shoulder, neck long, activate the lat. I'll go into more detail. Just want to show you variations. Another variation is extend through the top leg. What do you do with the hand? This is my favorite, where I've got my fingertips not pressing, but just light pressure on my hip, on my temple, and this just kind of gives me some spatial awareness where my head is. Some people love to do this, but I'm not a super fan of this because I see this a lot where people put the arm back and then they start rotating back. So you got to be really aware that your elbow, shoulders, elbow, wrist, fingertips are all in one plane. Again, this is my favorite. All right, another variation is to take the top leg and actually use it, push yourself up into a side plank. Okay, as long as I've got this stable, neutral sideline position, I'm good. And of course, our final, several variations. I know it's hard to see in the video, but my legs right now are stacked, okay? And then here, or what we call stagger, which is the top leg in front of the bottom leg. It could be a wide stagger, make sure they're even, and that's going to give you a little bit more stability. And for those who would like a little harder variation, because I know you're out there, you're going to lift up, hold, and then lift up a leg. And that's very challenging. You can kind of see my hips starting to want to drop, so maybe I use a little combination of all of it, maybe a bent knee on the bottom, and add the leg. I can add leg lifts here, I can add circles, I can tuck and lengthen. So there's just a lot to accomplish here in our side plank variations. Okay, I hope you got a lot out of that because that was actually a lot of variations for side plank. Certainly make sure if you're working out that you're doing both sides. When we hold a position, you want to make sure that you're breathing because we tend to hold a position and then we hold our breaths. Okay, so that's not good. So we want to engage the abdominals by using that forced exhalation, draw the bellies up to the back of the spine, belly down and deep, and boy, you're going to feel those transverse abdominis really kicking in to help you stabilize. Okay, moving on to the next one is group F, spinal extension swimmer. A lot of you guys have done this in class, simple exercise, and I'd like you to see some fun variations that I have for you. Okay, I know my feet are out of the line of sight, but we'll do our best here. All right, let's have our arms about the width of the shoulders, legs about the width of the hips. Those of you who have a sensitive back, I always recommend going wider, just slightly, maybe the width of the corners, okay, of the mat. All right, head neck is neutral. This is important. If your head drops, again, you got no longer at that neutral position. We want to train our spine and all our supporting muscles to endure, and so this is all good for posture. All right, lift up the right arm and the left leg, and I like to do preparations. So stay on the same side for a few reps, and when you're ready, switch to the opposite, left arm, right leg. I am a fan of the thumb up position, and you can't see it, but my thumb is up, okay, like saying, be okay here. And then you're going to, that helps relieve the shoulders, so those of you with tight shoulders or any shoulder impingement, that's a nice variation. And then you're going to alternate this. Belly goes up to the back of the spine. Notice I'm not rocking around. It's important. You should feel the pubic bone slightly press into the mat. And then to do true swimmers, you alternate a little quicker, and you're going to do a steady breath here. You're going to inhale for about a count of 5, and exhale for about a count of 5. Shoulders are down, my thumbs are up, my legs are long, and I want to think of more reaching length than height here. So again, I don't want to articulate my spine here a lot. This is very important. You stabilize. Think of lifting the upper back toward the ceiling slightly in extension, just a little bit. Good. All right, that is tougher than it looks. Love that exercise. And I'd like to show you another variation if you happen to have the ball, which is really one of my favorites. Okay? Those of you who have taken my core training classes, my core intervals, this is something I love to do a lot. So I've got my hands on the ball here, rolling the shoulders down. I have my legs long. Okay, no, you can't see that in the video here, but my legs are long and they're on the ground for now. As you exhale, you're going to press down against the ball, slightly extend through the neck, belly goes up, rib cage lifts slightly, and then take it down. So you can start here. You can add a leg lift. You can alternate that leg lift. Let's do a couple more so you can find a little rhythm. All right, what I like to do is hold it not too high and then do swimmers with the legs. So legs only to start. And if you'd like to add on, you roll the ball forward and lift up. Make sure you're not shrugging those shoulders, neck is long, eyes looking on the mat originally, and then slightly more forward toward the base of the ball. Good. That's an excellent exercise, wonderful modification if you're working out. All right, push yourself up. Let's do a little cat-cow, as I really need to release that. Curving the spine. Feeling the stretch along your extensors. The belly goes up, and then release it to neutral, passing through center, which is neutral, into extension to the cow. So that's why we call this cat-cow. Also known as C curve in Pilates terms. You can see the C or the upside down U. And then this would be called U curve. So C curve to U curve. Again, elbows are soft. We don't shrug the shoulders. You just take it through the range. And I like to go slow on that one because it's a really nice little back release. Okay. Excellent. All right, let's move on to the next one. It's Group G, inner unit, abs 1, and it is a plank, okay? So let's focus on planks now. I'm going to have you bring your elbows on the floor, and I'll show you there's so many ways to do planks, but let's start with what I call a low plank on the knees, okay? So the arms are parallel like the number 11 or railroad tie. Toes are curled underneath for those who would like to come up into the full. So this would be the partial. Ear, shoulder, hip, knee all in one plane, popping up to the plank. And of course, plank is a solid core stabilization exercise. We hold this position, but we breathe. Eyes are looking roughly at the thumbs. Make sure the belly is not low or the hips high. So one of my favorite cues here is belly up, butts down, or gluteals down. All right, squeezing those glutes nice and tight, activating all your core musculature, including the glutes. Again, don't let the shoulders hike. But this is what I see a lot. Hips go up. All right, if you have to, instead of doing that, go to your knee and continue. Certainly plank can be done high plank, which is straight arms. Okay, you can hold it here. Now that's going to require more upper body strength and endurance. So you choose elbows a little bit more core activated. And when you're a high plank, you're going to feel a lot more upper body, so keep yourself challenged, either variation that you choose, okay? Lots of ways to do the plank. Let me show you another just for fun. If those who would like to, you can do the leg lift. You can add movement. You can alternate that. All right, another one is you can just bring the knee in, you know, maybe some circles. Reverse the circle. God, there's just so much you can do here. Watch my knee as it tucks in toward the elbow, but still nothing else is moving. So I'm really challenging my core stability while my leg is moving, which really requires a lot more strength. So anyway, and core strength, of course. So let's move on to our next one from plank is group G, inner unit abs 2, the rollout. How do we do a rollout without the ball? So look what I got. I got paper plates. So it's a great variation. I'm gonna have to show you going on my carpet because it doesn't move on my mat. So I'm gonna roll my mat out of the way. Maybe make a triple layer or quadruple. Just a little space for my knees. Okay, I'll show a few variations here. So we don't want to be in this quadruped position. So walk your hands out just a little bit, tilt the tailbone towards your nose, slide your hips slightly down. So you're back into that partial plank position. Make sure scapula is nice and stable, head is long. Now, if you've never done this before, this can be extremely challenging. So maybe you take one arm out at a time. Maybe you bring it to the side. Or for those of you who can, I'd be very careful, depending on how slippery your paper plates are, mine are not. I'm gonna go out and hold, and then I'm gonna walk one hand in at a time, and then take it out again, and alternate the lead back. Okay? So this is a great variation for our rollout. You can see this really does require a lot of core strength and stability, scapula stability as well. So excellent variation. We all have paper plates now that they're sticky. Okay. All right, that was a fun exercise. I'm actually getting a little workout showing this to you, so it's quite fun as well. All right, so that's a great variation for that particular rollout variation or exercise. All right, getting down there. Group G, inner unit abs 3, seated balance. Okay, how do you do this when you can't? As soon as you sit down on a chair, you will obviously not need to balance because your chair is supporting you. So how do you do this? Really challenging. So I'm just going to give it a go, and I'm going to really do more of a standing variation. Now we did this earlier, the single leg balance, but let's do something different, okay? So if you didn't close your eyes, maybe you close your eyes, see how you do, and open, close, see how long, count to yourself. It's very challenging, by the way. Adding movement with the leg, maybe an extension of the knee. Some of you might be a little stronger, or if you feel this too much in the hip flexor, this one's pretty challenging as well. But here's where people go wrong. They lift up the leg and then they curve the spine. So can't do that. So start here, maybe a balance, do the extension. Okay, you can go slow as you like, hold it straight, tap your heel and lift. And again, if you'd like to hold it, close your eyes if this is easy for you. Really good posture here, long through the spine. Think of reaching the crown of the head toward the ceiling, and then, you know, do as long as you'd like to, or that you're able to continue to practice that. If you have something that's not very stable, like maybe a pillow you can stand on, also bare feet, that's kind of fun too. So keep it challenged. I like to just keep things mixing up. Here's another one. You can open to the side. Okay. You can do circles. Notice really nothing else is moving here in my core, my spine. And then obviously we want to reverse. Just start being creative. How about, large circles? You can see I just wobbled, so that's going to be a lot harder than the knee bend. Reverse. Stay with one direction for about, 5. Reverse the direction. And maybe start an alternating pattern for those who'd like to really work on your balance. Okay, that's what I would recommend for a modification at home for that particular seated, even though we're not seated, balance challenge. Okay, our last one is Group G, inner unit, abs 4, bird dog. One of my favorites. Lots of variations here. So let's go ahead and just understand bird dog. Very important. We're going to get into that quadruped position. Belly is lifted. This is not neutral. This is an anterior pelvic tilt. Puts a lot of pressure in the low back. Don't want to do that. So let's find that neutral space. I like to say, imagine you're serving a tea on your back and don't spill the tea. Okay? All right. You can imagine anything you like. Head is long, again, the neck is not down. I like to say wherever the belly button is facing is where your eyes should be. So eyes looking right between the hands, make sure the elbow's soft and the shoulder is down. You're gonna lengthen your right leg, and I want you to hold that first. Make sure your shin and your shoelace, or the top portion of your feet, are on the mat, and your leg is in line with the hip. It's not way up here. So if you feel your low back, be aware that your leg might be too high. So I'd rather it a little lower than too high. Again, reposition and square off the hips. All right, to make this a true bird dog, you're gonna lift up the opposite arm. So if you're with me, it should be the left. Thumb up is, again, my favorite position. And make sure that your supporting arm has it's just not locked. And again, you hold this position. This is classic bird dog. If you want to make some challenges here, you can do lots of different things. You can lower lift it. Again, the spine is stable. This is great for balance and core stability, pelvic stability, scapula stability. You can do circles. You can reverse that circle. You can float the arm and leg slightly to the side. And this is really quite challenging. Remember, nothing in the scapula, the spine, or the pelvis moves here when you do that exercise. So that's very important. If you could do this in front of a mirror, even better. So you can watch your form. I realize not everybody has a mirror that you can watch yourself. So that's just completely up to you. What I suggest is visually in your mind, so just kind of a little mind-body connection, go inside and notice what you feel when you do these exercises. If you're not feeling it in the right muscle group, it's not working that muscle group. So please make sure you feel it. Please make sure you breathe. Know what you're doing during these exercises. What are you stabilizing? What are you mobilizing? What's the point of the exercise? Always, even regardless of doing this class, all your exercises, anything you do, always be mindful. It's so important.